I think you are also raising the genre with Atomic Blonde. It's pretty amazing. And I know you've been producing it and developing it for years. And you had told me you were really interested in finding a protagonist who was unapologetic and could play by the same rules as men, which I love. And what I'm wondering is, I know you must get a million scripts sent to you all the time. Was there a lack of that? Were you finding that something you had to go out and develop yourself to make it happen?
You know, I wanted something very specific, and I think when you are looking for something that specific, I was open to it landing on my lap, but that wasn't happening, and I was about to turn 40, so kind of took matters in my own hands and said, why not actively go with my production company and search for something like this? So once we read a couple of pages of it was an unpublished graphic novel at the time, I saw great potential in this character to have the ability to live and breathe in a world where she could play by the same rules that men get to play all the time. And that was something that I really loved.
Yeah. What else is it about Lorraine? Because I feel like one of the things I've heard from you before is we don't learn a lot about her backstory. She's sort of an enigma, and that's totally okay, and that sort of falls into what you're talking about.
I love it, yeah. I love it. I love that, I think sometimes we can, when a story doesn't quite work, I find that the female characters in the movie will always be the ones that are used to then emotionally manipulate in a way that men don't get used in that way. Meaning that we're known to be nurturers, and we might not be thought of as just warriors. So we need a reason to become a warrior. And I have a problem with that because we really are warriors, and it's time for us to be shown that way. We don't need to lose a child or to lose a husband or to have some kind of a revenge story in order to become a warrior. I think it's not today. And I love that about Lorraine. I love that Lorraine lives and breathes in this world, and she exists. She's simply her. And we don't ever over-explain why she exists or why she's any good at her job or anything like that. She's there. And I love that about her.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what some of your biggest pet peeves were about the way Hollywood writes women. And I think you basically just explained it. I mean, they do tend to put women into certain categories that Lorraine does not fit into.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. I love an emotional story, but I think there are different ways to tell emotional stories than to just kind of go for that easy, manipulative emotion. I mean, I am a moviegoer. I love going to the movies. I love sitting in a dark room and, going to a world and having the people in that world take you on an emotional journey. But I think that sometimes it can, I feel like there's a laziness behind it. It's just such easy choices. It's like, of course I'm going to care for this woman if you tell me that her husband died. But what if you don't tell me her husband died? Can you still have me feel something for her? And I think we all have to kind of step up to the plate and work a little harder to find interesting choices to have with women and not go to these very easy mother, nurturer, the Madonna horror complex place that we've just kind of lived in for so long.
Yeah. What kind of physical training and shape do you need to get into before attempting shooting a scene like that?
Oh, it's brutal. There's nothing easy about it. I think I knew that would be such a big part of this film, and so I think mentally I was prepared, or as prepared as I could be for it. But once you show up for that first 4-hour workout, and you get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet and you can't sit down, and you're like, I'm not going to be able to do this tomorrow, and you show up and you do it again, this time 5 hours. I think it was good for me. I think that there's something in all of us when we push ourselves to that place where we think we can't go anymore, and that's definitely where I found myself in this movie. I so wanted it with everything that was in my body, but it took a lot of work to actually get to that place, and 2.5 months later, I saw the first footage. I didn't really want to see any of this behind the scenes stuff that they were shooting, and I saw the first little bit of it. And I got really emotional because all that time I was like, nobody's going to buy this. And then seeing that, we were actually getting to that place, I felt really confident going into the film. And then once we were shooting, we just kept pushing it and going further with it. There's an end sequence in this film. It's a big gun shootout battle that we have in a hotel room, and it was never scripted. And, 5 days before we shot that, David was like, we haven't done an action scene in a while. Let's just turn that into an action scene. And if anybody had ever said that to me before, I would have like a nervous breakdown and be like, I'm not prepared. What are you doing? And I was like, yeah, let's turn it into a gun battle. Let's do that. So it was nice to be in that place physically and mentally. It was empowering. I left this film and I did a lot of stuff that I never thought I would be able to do, and that was super empowering for me.
Yeah. I think it was your director who told me it was important to you that Lorraine fight the way a woman would actually be fighting in these scenes, which is really cool to think about. And that wasn't like using her environment or using two hands. Was that like a discussion that you guys had ahead of time?
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. I think for me as an actor, it's important to work from a place that feels grounded in reality. I'm not good when I don't have that weight behind me and I can kind of find things in my own life or things that I've observed to kind of connect with that reality. And so for me, it was very important. Every move that we have in the fight sequences, I was annoyingly always asking, well, can a girl do that? Could a girl do that? And so I think I drove them crazy after a while. I wanted to make this movie and let it be as badass as this, and not have anybody come up to us and say, a girl can't do that. That was important to me. So I'm here to say, girls can do that. But it's interesting, you'll watch. I only punched with my fist once in this movie, and I actually show you how much that hurts. Because punching with your fists really hurt. And for a woman, you could break every bone in your hand by doing that. So I only punched once, and it's like a guy that's already passed out. So I'm just kind of, being a bit of an a-hole, giving him that last punch. But I was like, ow, like that hurts, because that's the truth. You never see me really doing that. Everything I'm using is either my elbows, my knees, my entire body, or using my entire body weight to throw, because that's the reality. I can't fight the same way as a guy could fight, but that doesn't mean that I fight any less or any less better than a man.
Yep. I know you like to do a lot of these stunts yourself. Was there anything that you regretted trying, or anything that you regretted not trying in the end?
Well, I really wanted to jump out of the building, but the producer in me was like, no. But I still kind of wish I did that. I don't know why, but it was so early in the movie, and if something went wrong, we would have had to shut the whole movie down, and I didn't want to do that. So that's the one thing I watch in the movie, and I'm like, God, I wish. But I'm really, really happy that my stunt girl, Mo, did an excellent job kicking her legs and her garter belt coming down. No, look, there was, in that fight sequence that you just saw, we trained very specifically for that. But once you throw a camera operator into the whole mix, it changes everything a little bit. We were working with a really small space, and it was usually 3 of us in that space, and now you're adding a 4th person into that space holding a camera. And no, I don't regret it at all, but I connected with our camera operator and stunt coordinator. The scene where the guy hits me with the bag and I go down and I twist onto the floor? I fell right onto him and our heads. My head hit the camera and the camera hit him. And the 2 of us were just kind of, I think, just lying on the floor for a good, it felt like 20 minutes, but it was probably 3 seconds. That was probably one of the worst things that happened in that fight. Yeah, stupid camera operator.
How was the camera?
Yeah, no, the camera worked. Okay, the camera was still good. Yeah, the human beings not so much, but we pulled it together.
Another scene in this movie that's been getting a little bit of buzz is there's a sex scene between you and a very lovely French agent.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays into what you talked about from the beginning about a spy and how a spy behaves, right? I mean, Have you been surprised at all that people have been somewhat taken aback by the scene?
No, I mean, I guess it's. I mean, I have to ask myself, would people ask as much about it if it was a guy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm surprised at how much people like it. I like that.
It's a very hot scene. I could tell everyone know.
Yeah, I like that people, appreciate it. Just, I mean, even though we wanted to make provocative choices for this film and to have this film kind of live and breathe in this heightened state, it's vibrant. This is not your grandfather's spy thriller. Nobody wears a gray. Well, one guy does, but it's perfect for him. We really try to take the genre and turn it on its head. And so, putting this movie aside, I just feel in general that community is not necessarily, they're not represented in a way that they should be in film. I feel that, actors always talk about holding a mirror up and reflecting society with the work that we do in cinema. But if we're going to do that, we should really do that. And so in a way, this could have been, I could have hooked up with a guy, but it's great that I hook up with a girl. And I'm proud of that. I also think that the story actually gets told it gets furthered through that relationship more than it would have ever gotten furthered if she had a relationship with a man. And I also love that we never see this character, the one time that she struggles with her humanity and being vulnerable is in that scene. And so having it be with another woman, I'm happy that it's not with a man.
Yeah.
I love that there's not one place in this movie where it's because of a man that she has to kind of find her brokenness. We're just trying to break rules here. We're just trying to kind of see what happens if you take a woman and throw her in different circumstances. And I think, it's not to say that we don't. I love a love-making scene with a man. I love it in my real life. I mean, so I got nothing against that. But I think that it was good for this film to see a woman have to struggle with being vulnerable and have that be with another woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay for me! I slept with a girl.
So this portrayal of Lorraine has stirred up talk that you could play another famous British spy. I'd like to read something your former co-star, Chris Hemsworth, said recently to W Magazine. He said, "I think Charlize Theron should be the next James Bond. There's more. She embodies every ounce of strength and nobility and dignity and integrity that character should have, and she's smart as hell. She's physically able. I just think, why not? It's time." So, we have a female Doctor Who now.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about a female?
I'm all for it.
Right.
I also, it feels a little bit uncomfortable talking about something like that when I think another movie is going into production.
Hypothetically.
I think of this character as something that could hopefully, live and breathe in the same kind of format. Like we can actually make a couple of more movies and see this agent live, and so I'm fine with leaving that over to Daniel or to Idris, who I think would be freaking awesome.
Yes.
And I'll do Lorraine.
But indulge this fantasy for a second. If you were James
Yes.
Bond, who would be your first choice as Bond boy?
Yes, well, I will make my Bond boy a Bond girl.
Oh, also good.
Jimmy Fallon already threw his name into the hat. So
Oh, good. Well, let's start the
he
list.
wants to be Dickie galore. So I'm open. I'm open.
You know, when I went back and started looking at all of your films, something I think that you don't get enough credit for is what a good driver you are. You seem to be able to
Sarah,
drive
thank you.
everything.
I've been waiting. Thank you.
Mini Coopers. Where did this come from? I was told you kicked all of your co-stars' ass in The Italian Job.
I did, yes.
You were the best one by far.
Mark Wahlberg, Jason Statham, they all puked, literally. We'd go on the track and they'd there's like some stunt driver next to you and you've got a helmet on and you just hear him going, faster, faster, faster. And I'm like, who doesn't love this? And then I look, I'm passing Mark and he's barfing at the back of his car and Jason Statham's like drinking water and putting it, I was like, these dudes, what's wrong with them? I love driving. I love driving. By the time I was 5, I could drive a tractor. So
That helps.
that's just growing up on a farm for you. I love driving. I just dig it. But thank you for acknowledging that, because girls get such a bad rep.
It's true.
It's time for us to change that.
That character was so incredible, and I know that there's been talk that there's a backstory that we don't know about. What can we do, all together, all of us, to get George Miller
I know.
to write another story for Furiosa?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's whatever it is, I'll do it with you guys. I love playing that character. And I love that George allowed me to play that character. And that he never, not for a day, fought me on that character and did nothing but support and celebrate who I wanted that woman to be. And he's just amazing. And it would be great, but if he's not ready, then he's not ready. So I'll be waiting, George. But I'm going to be 42 in August, so let's get to it.
but you have decided, you know some things about.
Yeah, I read the backstory. It was a beautiful backstory of kind of how she ended up, in that world and how she lost her arm and how she was kind of, how he was trying to utilize her but couldn't, and that she was barren and all of this stuff that, again, we always think of with women, and this was really a character that kind of played against all of that stuff, and I think through playing against it, to me, was a real woman.
Hi, my name is Mike. Charlize, like Sarah said, you played a lot of different characters, but as far as the DC or Marvel side, was there any characters you would want to play as on either side?
No, who would you want me to play? Who do you think I could play?
The female Thor. I mean,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, totally.
Wow.
Or on DC Power Girl.
Wow. You sure?
Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
my gosh, that's nice. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Dude, I feel the same about you.
What is the favorite role of your career where you portrayed a villain, and then the favorite role where you portrayed a hero?
Oh, wow. Talking about your films and how much you like them or not like them is a little bit like talking about your kids. You love them all, but it's just for different reasons, and they give you hassle for different things, and they make it hard on certain days. I mean, I'll say this. I definitely loved... A hero is so hard because I don't feel like I've ever played a hero, so I don't know if heroes exist. But a real person, I would have to say probably, I loved how conflicted Eileen Wuornos was in Monster. I think just digging into humanity and what humanity is, and that humanity is not just black and white. There is no just good or bad. There are good people who do bad things, and we have to kind of take a look and see why they do that. But I mean, I've loved them all, you know. I love the film that I did with Nikki Caro. I've been lucky enough to work with great women in this business. I mean, villain-wise, I feel like they're all a little bit villainous, but I had a blast playing Ravenna. I mean, who am I kidding? Just the wardrobe, and I have that crown, the original hero crown in my office. I still wear it every once in a while. My kids don't like it at all. But sorry, I don't really know if I answered your question. Sorry, I'm all over the place now. Thanks.
Do we have a girl?
We have a lady in the house.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my voice. There's been a lot of attention about unequal pay among actresses in Hollywood. So what's going to actually make the change, and what can we do as fans to support that?
Well, that's the great question, right?
Yeah.
So I feel the support that a film like Wonder Woman just had, that says so much. I mean, if anything, you cannot deny that. No studio can deny that and look at that and not think, well, we need to make more movies like that. I feel that there was a big part, because I kind of, I put my foot down at some point. It was with Snow White and the Huntsman, with Snow White and the Huntsman, the second one. Is that what that one was called? I'm blanking right now. I'm old, guys. I didn't take my brain medication this morning. But anyway, Universal was incredible at that time, because they just said, of course, we're not going to even have a discussion about this. You were in the first one. You're just as much a part of the success of that as Chris, so we're not going to even have that. And I think what was missing in that conversation, or that story that everybody wrote about, was that I am in a very blessed place where I can choose when I want to go and work. And that's one of the greatest luxuries that you can have in life. And I don't take that for granted one day of my life. But there's a whole industry of actresses in my industry who don't have the luxury of putting their foot down and saying, you know what, I'm not going to come in for the job, because they have families to support. And if they did that, the producers will just move on to the next girl. And that's where we need to stop it. And I think with social media, we need to keep this conversation going. I think the more we talk about this, the more pressure we put on that as being a fact and a truth in our industry. And look, guys, I always say to studios, I'm like, make more female-driven movies, not just actors, directors, writers. And they always say, well, we would if people go and see them. So how can you help? Go see those movies. I mean, that's really how we're going to get women to kind of take control of having some kind of an ownership within any part of our industry, whether it's summer blockbusters or fall films or comedies or whatever, We need you guys to support us. We need you guys to go and see it. We need you guys to understand that they're just as good. We're just as good as the guys. Plus, we have boobs. They don't have boobs. Thank you.